I'm going to move on then, and I'm going to share my video again and invite my guests in. Let me just share screen again and then take us into the finish line here. We have our final panel. Here's what's really great about these guys. So I'm going to move past Hilliard. We're going to have Dr. Shannon Terry, who just texted us and said she might be running a bit late. So hopefully she'll jump on soon. She got pulled into like the deputy commissioners for Texas, a meeting really quickly here. But we do have my good friend, Dr. Erin English with us, and my good friend, Ellen Palmer, both two people I am so proud of. I've known them both for years. I've known all three of these women for years. And I'm so glad they're all three on the panel. Hi, Erin. Hey, let me share.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's always good to have you. And Ellen, my other awesome friend. All right, so let me give you the breakdown, and I'm going to tell you the same thing I've told the other winners. We could have written a book. We had to do it in a short little paragraph. Stick it on your certificate here. San Diego Unified, awarded for recognizing differences in student gains or losses in remote learning and innovating to drive dramatic changes in teaching and learning to attract and retain students with new models and a new learning consumer-oriented tool to explore their schools online. This is some really heavy lift work. I know it's heavy lift work, and you guys have really powered through. I mean, I've watched you over the last 2 years, and you came together like a family, right? So I'm going to get to you in a second to share everything out. Want to share also Pomona Unified. Ellen knows I love her and that all their work there, and Ellen's been such a driver for years on all this stuff. You're awarded as an EduJedi gainer, and you'll get to use this nifty little logo for the rest of your life. And then you'll also be pushed to, become more and more leveled up EduJedi as we go. But you're awarded for an innovation orientation as a whole district. I mean, I met a lot of you in person, just like I met a lot of the people in San Diego. And it's not just you, Ellen. It's like all those people. I've met a lot of them. And providing independent learning options to empower all learners within a complex digital ecosystem, which is way more complex than this shows. I mean, I know you've got a bajillion pieces of software floating around. We only found a few in the list, so we got to build out your list. But I'm going to have you guys both go now, but I'm going to go back to San Diego and Dr. English. Erin, give us a little color around your journey and your reaction to the award, and then we'll have Ellen talk. And in the meantime, maybe Shannon will join us in a few minutes.
Actually, the award, which award did I get? I don't know.
Oh, are you seeing my screen? This one.
I'm seeing it, but I see.
You're an EduJedi gainer.
Oh, there you go, right there. So that says San Diego Unified on it. That's why I was confused.
Oh, what?
That's okay.
Yeah, so it's for the whole, it should be for the County Office of Ed. You're right. It's wrong. It should be for the whole county office.
Yeah, no, I'm not
I don't know why we put the wrong logo on there, but we did. But we can fix that. No problem. But it's for the whole of the county. It's at your level, not just the district. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly. No, it's as you know, LeiLani, it goes from our board, our amazing school board that created some goals a few years ago. And one of the goals was leading at innovation. And we also have an equity goal that we have been just so tied to, and our career tech goal. These are a goal, and then organizational effectiveness. So between those 4 goals that our board has set and some amazing hiring that our superintendent did, we have been able to do some heavy lifting in this age of COVID. I'm really impressed with the work that we've been doing, and not me, I'm speaking for the County Office of Ed, because I'm always humbled by the amazing talent that I have around me. So I don't know what else you want me to say at this moment, but I'm just very proud to be here, but proud to talk to you about the work they're doing.
Yeah, I'm really proud of you guys too, because like I said, the innovation, what we wrote on this, even though it's a wrong logo and it states the wrong thing, but you were awarded because you guys actually answered the survey for these reasons. And there's a lot of other reasons, right? But we had to be short in terms of what we said. But, just listening to the emotion even that's gone through what the county's had to deal with. It's phenomenal. And then you're also dealing with the new, everybody's got to stand up an online option law that just passed in California. It's been a lot. Yeah. Okay, good. So I'm going to go ahead. Ellen, go ahead. Your reaction then to also, having your EduJedi Gainer Award. There's so much more I could say about you too.
I was looking at your list and I was like, oh, that needs to be about 71 programs after the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I've shared this before, LeiLani. I've been blessed to have been introduced to your organization right when you kind of were kicking off, and it's been nice because you're so future focused and we're wanting to kind of stay ahead and keep the eyesight, but we have to be sure that in my system, because it's a large system, we have to be sure that it's not just us moving in that direction. And so our EdTech team has kind of followed your stages, and sometimes I come and I'm going, okay, we're right in there, and then other times I'm like, oh, we're so far behind. But I am appreciative of the recognition and all of the hard work that our EdTech team does here in PUSD. And we've been doing a lot of reflection and a lot of planning now that we're back in person. And, it's been exciting, to look at what was working before, and we want to make sure to not lose that. But also, if something isn't working or we now have changed and we're aligning our mission and our vision better, that that we are willing to let go of some of those things that we might have worked hard to build in the past, but they just might not serve students well for their futures. So
yeah, you're in the selective retirement mode of things that were the old world. This is a hard time. And very emotional, and I've seen that all over the country. I've been also moved to grief sometimes when I'm talking to superintendents. All right, so I'm going to start barraging you with questions, and if Shannon joins us, she'll get hit with the same things. But I want you to, and I know to both of you, I've talked to you, and I talked to Cynthia not too long ago, who I met, which she's super awesome. We were so impressed with her, new person in Ellen's district. But I want to go back to you, Erin, first. Just share about your wins in a new unit of time, because we haven't talked to you in a while. So what are the newest things that you want to share out so others can learn from you?
I was thinking about this. I was actually thinking about this the other day. We have spent so much time looking at how equity is affecting our students' progress through school. And what we're doing is, which is to me is just unbelievable that we're finally getting to this point, is like I'm going to speak personally. For me personally, my goals for the year are focused on the most marginalized students and how does my work affect those students. But so that's just one person in our organization. But so what we're doing is our goals now at the County Office of Ed, especially in the innovation division specifically, our goals are targeted and they name it. They name the student, not by personal name, of course, but they name the student population that we are addressing so that we know that our work is directly associated with how that student's going to grow. So to me, that is like a career breaker. After 30 years, we're finally putting the emphasis on the students that are the most marginalized and have been historically marginalized in what we've been throughout my career, So the other thing, I've been working at a school, one of the proud things that I could say, and it's not about me being proud about what I'm doing, but the work that I'm involved in is working at the Monarch School. And that's a school in San Diego that serves students that are unsheltered. And we have 263 students right now that are unsheltered. There's so many more. So we could have thousands right now, which is so sad. But right now we are serving 263 students and their families in a wraparound community type school. And we're making sure those students have everything they need to be successful. One of the things we're finding in all schools in San Diego is that we're having a different set of struggles from our families and our students. And it could be behavioral struggles, it could be food insecurities, it could be access, technology access, a little everything. But now what it's doing is we know it now. We see it. So we're taking those 263 kids and we are modeling what could be possible for all kids. So I'm pretty proud of that, the work we're doing there. You know, it's a heavy lift, but it's heartfelt.
Yeah, and awesome. Well, thank you. Ellen, your favorite wins.
I think that where our team really shined over these last couple of years is the amount of professional learning that they were able to provide to our teachers is just unreal. And we were teasing because one of our gals is applying to be an AVID trainer for the summer, and she was saying they asked her to describe in so many words all of the training that she's done over the last 2 years, and she was like, she just wanted to write LOL because you know, it's just constant, and there's the team has been so dedicated. But I think what has come from the professional learning is our teachers have been able to really shine in modeling for teachers. You know, give the teachers an opportunity when they're with us to have that student experience, but then just not leaving them there. That then once they've modeled, then they're going to show and actually instruct the teachers on what they need to do, and then moving into a time where they kind of get to play and we provide resources so the teacher becomes, you know, empowered to kind of build on their own. And our teachers have done a really great job of modeling those things, and it really it kind of highlights our vision that we have, because I think that in order for the teachers to really be able to go and create these dynamic learning experiences where the kids are inspired and equipped and empowered themselves, that the teachers need to see it. And our teachers have done an amazing job of not just telling, but showing. And so I think that has definitely been a win for us. The other thing that has been a win is our deployment of our one-to-one initiative over the last 4 years. We were just talking to one of our tech specialists today, and he was saying he kind of feels like, okay, that's old news. Like, what's new now? You know, what's our headline going to be today? So, but looking at all of the systems and support that the team developed and, you know, provided to the school sites, so they weren't kind of starting from scratch, and doing our best to have systems in place so the hardware itself, the access that we've provided, whether it be a hotspot or a Chromebook or a teacher laptop, that they're tracked, and, you know, we know right where they are and who has what. And it was funny, I won't name the name, but we were working with a vendor, and they had to come to us to say, okay, we're not sure which technology should be on which of our accounts, and so can you help us clean up the data? And I was able to give that to the team, and they were able to do it. You know, it was beautiful. So, but I think that you know, I'm so appreciative. We have Dr. Sanchez now, but our previous director, who decided to, you know, take a step back for family at the start of this last school year. Her leadership and her vision has always been so future focused, but the team that she has put together has just made the work very easy.
Awesome. All that's great. Fantastic news. So, Terry, Dr. Shannon Terry, my good friend, has just joined us as well. Hi, Shannon. We don't have you for very long, I don't think. So I want to announce you, and then the first question is going to be really your wins in the last year, because there are wins. Division Director of Program Integration Strategy from TEA, kind of a hot shot. Came from is it Dallas ISD, right? Yeah, first met her, really impressed. All three of you ladies are some of my all-time favorites. Don't tell anyone else. But Dr. Terry, give us your sort of wins in the last year as a kickoff. I think you're on mute. Yep. There you go.
See how brilliant I am?
Yeah.
Didn't click unmute, but there we go. Thank you for those kind words. And I am so honored to be with these distinguished guests and you again, LeiLani. The big wins I'm going to speak to from the state of Texas. I could go on and on. Texas is a big state. I also have our team's personal realization of where we are in the space right now as we transition through these after COVID ripple effects, if you will, and not that we can say after COVID, but in Texas, we were all hands on deck in terms of redeploying assets to be able to implement high quality instructional materials across the state of Texas through a variety of instructional designs and through a variety of platforms. We are all familiar with the asynchronous, synchronous, blended models that are available, and we know that students were learning in the home. And so we really made a concerted effort to ensure our local education agencies, school districts, had digital access. That included connectivity. It included the deployment of devices. I didn't review the stats to be able to cite those numbers here, but they are available in public on our website. Would love for you to go there and look at them. We supported through a robust system of supports, including universal grants that allowed for decisions to be reached that aligned with the local education agency needs. From instituting tutoring programs, enhanced supports to students in terms of intervention. Certainly a very important piece that was thread throughout those wins was the emphasis and priority assigned to professional learning. We know that our teachers, educators, system leaders were all at different points in the continuum in terms of familiarity with, comfort with, adoption of, support for digital learning. And so we really had some growing pains there. And then also to your point, LeiLani, we had many, many wins. So check out the Texas Education Agency website to see some of those. And since we're all in this together, maybe borrow some resources to impact students more broadly.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. Well, I think, the three of you were chosen sort of like, in the back channels when we wanted to put together this, wrap up panel, because I consider all three of you guys, intellectuals, and you've all mentioned things now that I kind of want to point the conversation at as my next round of questions to you all. And that is, we've had a big shift no one can get away from, right? It's normal's not coming back. We still have a lot of school districts nationwide. And I think Texas, you guys are one of them, where there's a lot of we're back in school. So maybe things are going to be back to normal, but they're not. So this time and space change, also to Erin's point about the equity focus that is a common thread nationwide, you'll notice that learning councils put their attention on maybe one of the largest inequities ever is the system itself. How it's structured to normalize, and has been for 215 years. Everyone's supposed to, at this age, join us in kindergarten and has to do this and stay with the pack in every subject in their whole journey for 13 years, the same as everyone that's the same age as them. This has never been a true human condition, and it's falsely and maybe systemically, created an inequity, put people in the position of you kind of stunk at math in fourth grade, so therefore for the rest of your life you're sort of going to stink. at math, but maybe you were way ahead in language. We had no real accommodation for that. We couldn't manage to the individual. Well, now there's a lot of technology on the horizon that is trying to move us in the direction of 100% personalization on path, like individual. Okay, so you need to double up on math because you're way behind, and we're going to cut you off on language for now. Those are the things I'm talking about. But it all boils down to time and space changed and exposed a systemic inequity that we've lived with, that we struggled our way out of and poked our head above, the water for a little bit, even though a lot of us went back to what we thought was normal. It's really not going to be normal anymore because we learned too much. We learned too much. So I'd like you guys to comment on that issue of normal's gone and space and time there's a rift that's pretty permanent. And what are your thought patterns going forward? And this is where I'm really going to have you drill down into what do you really think? Where are we going with this? I'm coming back to you, Dr. English, first. What are your thoughts on all that?
Actually, you hit home, and I heard you mention something about this morning about the textbooks that were purchased. I think it was you that were saying you purchase a textbook in first grade and you get a textbook in second grade. So if we really think about it, if in the old way of thinking is our students would have just what we prescribed to them at a certain age, and they would get just the prescription of they would just get the prescription of what they wanted till or what they were getting until 12th grade or beyond. But what we now they don't have to have that with OER. They could use other things. So to me, it's a misjustice of not being able to give our students what they need right now. But what's I see, and I was a former board member in a district, and what I see is there's such a clash in educators, parents, board members, administrators, not all together. We're not all clashing, but we all have our beliefs of what education could be and should be. And many people, many families or parents, they're coming in thinking, hey, I'm okay. Hey, I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, and it served me well. Therefore, it's going to serve my kids well because they're going to be successful like me, so we can't change anything. They don't realize that our system was set up to make really good factory workers. That's what we could be doing. We're really good factory workers if we just learn how to do these widgets, and we learn that chapter, we learn how to recite that poem, and we learn how to copy that paragraph and put it in that box. We're great at what we do. But we're seeing now that the workforce does not have the critical thinkers, or colleges don't have the critical thinkers we need. And the entry-level positions now are having to reteach and retrain people. So what I see, to answer your question the long way, I see the pushback is going to come from businesses, and people that are hiring are going to say, you're not sending us people that we can hire anymore. We can't keep training them. You're sending us to college, but our kids to college, but they have to take math over again. They have to take 5 years of math because they couldn't get it in the 4th grade, like you're mentioning. So we have to get it right before we send our kids to the workforce. And I think that's what's going to push us to change, is the workforce is going to say, no, thank you. We want everyone who can think critically, and you're not giving that to us.
This is an excellent point. Really excellent point. Yeah. I am a huge proponent of really starting to look from the outside in at education. What does education need to be? Because of everything else going on in the world. And there's way too much insular thinking inside the leadership of education. It thinks like it's the ecosystem, but it isn't. It's part of a really big ecosystem. And I'm really glad you made that point. All right. So Ellen, what are your thoughts? Same thing, the space and time rift and normal is not coming back. What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is, well, people are sure fighting hard to make it come back, right? They want to go back and revert back to even, we were already one-to-one at most of our schools, and now you're seeing teachers like, oh, let's just do worksheets. And it's like, no, right? Like, you can pivot back a little bit, but don't pivot back all the way. And but I know that within my system, I know that within our district, the systems and structures, it's going to be a long time before we're going to see true transformation from that. And so our work will continue to be grassroots. And I know that I once went to a professional learning opportunity, and we had to come up with an image that we felt represented our district. And I think I've shared this before, but I feel like our district is a floating city. It is a aircraft carrier. And if you know anything about aircraft carriers, you know that it takes them 2 miles to start to slow down before they can start to pivot. And that's kind of how I see our system. But I think that even despite maybe the structures and systems won't, be transformational right away, that we can still work with teachers in the classrooms and get them to kind of demand for the change. I don't know who said it, but I once heard, if you want to change what teachers are doing, change what kids are doing. And so we will continue to kind of work in our grassroots movement and make those pivots as we see that we can, and then hopefully be able to get enough people to understand and buy in with us, and so that we can truly see our vision through. So, but yeah, that I know for me, in our district, the systems and structures are pretty solid, and so we will continue to make our moves with the kids and the classroom teacher.
Excellent. All right. So, Shannon, what are your thoughts on all that? Because you're really familiar with my thinking on it.
I am.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with the quote that comes from a group called Knowledge Works, and it says, "The future's not a fixed point," because it underscores what we've been talking about, that it's ours to create. And you alluded to this, that the crisis point in our education system is not one of the teacher or school performance, but it's about the system, right? Mm-hmm. And some of the pain points and things that were surfaced over the past couple of years now is the importance of relationships, which you and I have talked about, and that the hybrid logistics project affords districts the opportunity to really invest in the human, as you've said. We've already touched upon the need for the personalization of learning, that it's oriented around the learner's needs, the learner's interests, the learner's aptitudes and goals. Additionally, recalling the game when you were prototyping the hybrid logistics supports and programming, whereby students could receive the additional supports they needed based on their progression through a learning path, if you will. We've learned that education's been, in many respects, or what's emerging as a trend, is the deinstitutionalization of education. That what are the roles of learning locations anymore, the places and spaces where learning happens. And then I think to what Dr. English and Ellen has also referenced in their remarks in response to your question, it's around what are the guiding beliefs and values that now shape our learning cultures, and what paradigm shifts are going to have to happen to actually operationalize those. You talked, Ellen, about the grassroots movement. And I think shared experiences and shared success will be a catalyst to keep moving us forward. But those are the things on my mind. And they all align with what you've been sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to admit that I have scared people along the way. But I'm looking at the data, right? So I know one of the data points that we shared early in the day was the sheer volume of hours. It's like 24% of teachers think they're spending 30 hours or more a week, which isn't there just a 40-hour week? Well, apparently not for them. Doing these three things: finding digital stuff, sequencing it into lesson sequences, and or digital traffic in general. 30 hours plus a week, 24% of teachers nationwide. This is phenomenal. Administrators think it's way smaller. No. And it could be exaggerated, just a tinge, right? But let's just talk about that for a second. So I have been an advocate, and I think I scared Ellen's peer over there, Cynthia, the other day when I first met her. We had a private call, and I said, I think the future is you got to build your main highways of digital curriculum. And right now, every leader in America, just about, except for a few of them, and weirdly, a lot of them are EduJedi, they're in a letting mode. Let all teachers do all the things they want at their level. You want 67 apps? Here you go. You want to have your own separate Google Drive, and if we lose you, we lose all operational continuity because we can't figure out your filing system? Let's just let them do that. I'm not a proponent of that. I am a proponent of let's have some operational continuity and some prediction and potentially some future analytics by creating a common map. Now you can have all the side trails off that you want. We always did that, right? We had a book and then people created all their videos around that, blah, 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 and Discovery Channel and, History Channel stuff around they always did the, remediation stuff. No, so, but let's just have some commonality. Let's not kill our teachers with 30 hours of work a week on the creating or finding, creating, and then trafficking on that of all the digital traffic. So I want to talk about that because what people think they hear when I say that is you're taking away the teacher's job. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm talking about operational continuity and having the teachers teach around a normalized thing. So what do you guys hear when I talk about that? I mean, because I don't want to freak you out, but that's sort of what people think. They're like, no, all power to the teacher. What are you saying? That's like blasphemy. We should kill you for that. So it's funny, but not funny, right? To me. Erin, you go first. What are your thoughts?
You're hitting home. I did a lot of work in the area of OER, open education resources. And so I'm like geeked up about it. I'm going around telling everyone, it's so exciting. Let's do this. Just go. You just get to make your own curriculum and you get to do this, you get to do that. And I remember sitting with a group of teachers and they're just looking at me and going, I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. I don't have the expertise to do that. And then when I really started getting deep into that, what they said. So the three things they said, I don't have the time, expertise, or energy. And our teachers are not all content experts. They're not. Our teachers go to school for, like I went through for child development. It doesn't mean I came out a math teacher, but I was hired as a math teacher. I was hired as an elementary teacher. We have to teach math. Doesn't mean that's my area of expertise. So what you're saying is if you give borders, you give bumpers, and you give something for teachers to fall back on that is proven by research and proven by data to show that if you use this, it will work for most kids, and then you supplement it and then you enhance it. So you're supplementing where you need to and you're enhancing, then you give that personalized experience to kids. Yeah. But all teachers are not experts on all things. And they don't have the time. And I'm amazed by the 30 hours, by the way. We're not there yet. So it's teacher. I mean, I'm from a family of educators. My sister's a third grade teacher, and she just looks at me like I'm out of my mind when I say, oh yeah, you go out and do this yourself and build it. She goes, just give me my curriculum and just give it to me. And then I know how I need to deviate it for each child.
Yeah, well, very important point. But like I'm saying, we spent 2 years now letting and not leading, which was a complete about face nobody recognized from the days of textbooks. Okay, not everyone, right? Not every place in America. Ellen, what are your thoughts? Because you're close in working with teachers every day. I mean, would they like hunt me down and hang me up if they heard me say this kind of stuff? What are your thoughts?
I think it depends on the teacher. I know, like when I was in the classroom, I always wanted to take and make my own, and I liked that creativity. I liked using the tech skills I had gained in creating myself. But I like the idea of having kind of like that main highway. I'm thinking about blended learning. This is an area that I think should go deeper and deeper and deeper, and every teacher should grab onto it and learn how to do it well. And you need that online component. So having maybe what you build or what you're providing is that online component. But I think that the real work of the teacher, if you take that burden of finding and sequencing things, then they can spend their time on figuring out how to help their kids cognitively process the content, the concepts, the skills, because that's where the learning really takes place.
Yep.
Right? The learning doesn't take place in sitting on a program and completing practice problems. Right? That's not the learning. The learning is, it's got to be hands-on. It's got to be them making the connections, or the teachers helping the students make the connections, that mental mapping that needs to occur, and then eventually the student kind of coming to like an aha moment where it makes sense in their own way to them, and then also giving the kids the opportunity to like think about their thinking, that metacognition, right? That's when transfer really is going to happen. And so I think that if we could find companies that are building quality curriculum that you could provide to the teachers, and the teachers wouldn't look at it and go, okay, yeah, it has a ton of gaps, I'm going to have to spend hours, filling these gaps. I think that we could really, take that off their plate. I know teachers are saying they have so much on their plate, and hopefully you find something, or somebody, somebody's out there can create something.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago with somebody, and I was saying it would be so nice if the designers of curriculum and textbooks and online courseware, if they would study how people learn, and the design, and have all of their content and curriculum designed around how people learn, right? I mean, that would be absolutely fabulous if we could have something like that. But I mean, our teachers, we were having a conversation yesterday because everybody keeps saying, oh, teachers are stressed. But one of my colleagues said it, and it just really hit home. The teachers aren't stressed. They're worried about their kids.
Mm.
Right? And they're trying to figure out what they can do to help them kind of fill the gaps, and accelerate the students' thinking, and while still kind of going slow to fill the gaps that the kids have, that they're coming with, or that were created. So but
Interesting.
I think I'm definitely in favor of providing a component of, but I think you still need teachers to do the other parts of that blended learning, right?
Yeah, they need to feel empowered.
Mm.
But they also need to be led. There needs to be some guardrails, like Erin said. But I think you also almost did something totally miraculous, which I'm really hoping to see evolve in most leaders in the market, which is you almost went so far, Ellen, as to isolate the real human role in teaching and learning in digital, which is you're like, yeah, but that's supposed to be, that's when they get together, this moment. And I loved that part. Right? Because I think that as a nation, maybe globally, that's where we're going. We're figuring out that once we're this high, up to our necks, eyeballs in tech, okay, now what are the humans really supposed to be doing? It's not Googling around for stuff. It's not digging in digital file folders to see where I put that thing last year. It's not like, it's not any of that stuff. It's this. I'm just help you figure out what that little mark is in a fraction that you never understood before. I just help you do that. And boom, that's like real learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that you just did that. So think about that more, because I would love to have you spout off a fabulous definition. Okay, so Shannon, your thoughts on all the same stuff, because this is the crux of it. Letting versus leading.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's occurring to me, and it's so nice to be third because I just get to bounce off these great ideas that don't switch up the order, LeiLani.
Okay.
But we do have to explore new educator roles to fit the new learning models, right? We've all communicated that in some form, and I just want to underscore that as something that's important. You know, our teachers, I like to think of them as learning agents, and I'm also remembering, and I sound like a paid endorser of all things Learning Counsel, but I truly am informed and operationalize so many practices that come forward from all of the perspectives you bring to the public. But something you said, Ellen, around teachers, and it resonated with me related to having been a teacher, always a teacher, and wanting to apply flexibility and creativity to what direction is offered by whoever the governing body is, right? Whether you're in a district or a state, and how all of those things vary. And it goes back to what I started the comment with, and it's around exploring new educator roles for new learning models. And so I'm reminded of, so what is the role of the teacher? And I too liked or really honed in on that idea of really being the spark for the cognitive connection that has to happen for a student to internalize a skill. But also where creativity can be exercised, I think, is when we have high quality instructional materials, right? Whether digital in this example, teachers aren't necessarily having to dig through it, but what they are being able to invest time in is designing assessment, right? Related to that HQIM or high quality instructional material. They can spend more time, perhaps, although available with adaptive technology, on what are the learning pathways that students will need, and how might I differentiate them based on what I know about my students, because I've been able to, because I'm not digging through files and looking for things, I'm building stronger relationships with students. I also think that our teachers, as we talked about learning places and how they're expanding and they're being repurposed, how can our teachers be community connectors? Because in a lot of the blogs, articles, I can't say necessarily research, but what appears to be trending is the role of the teacher in a larger context than the school, almost as, and I'm stealing this term from you, LeiLani, as it can be as much as a free agent as and I think you used the term federated agent. So yeah. What's so nice about the reality we're in is we have choices, right? And we have choices along a continuum that would allow for the adoption, let's say in this example of a district, adopting high quality instructional materials that have been vetted through rubrics, review panels, et cetera, that meet certain criteria. And now we're supporting teachers in becoming those assessment designers, designing the learning pathways, building the strong relationships, being able to intervene on the human level when emotion is the variable for why students aren't able to acquire the information, the skills, the knowledge. Yeah.
That's powerful. Yeah, it's powerful what you just said. Because what image I got was like teachers need to become like the MacGyver of learning. They like to, be able to take a paper clip and open something, and build a boat out of a paper clip. It's like it's essentially what we're asking them to do, but they can't do it all. And I think that that's what I'm hoping that happens in 2022. And then I'm going to go to one final really quick round.
LeiLani, before you jump around, the one thing that you said, MacGyver of learning.
Love it.
Right? It's not about the teaching. It's about the learning.
Yes.
And that, definitely.
Yeah. I think that's really where we're going, is we're used to having deliverers of information, right? That's lecture style. Turn to chapter this, read this, which is sort of guide style, right? But it's still very it's rather perfunctory, and I'm sorry, it's a little boring to me. What's exciting about the future is teachers are going to be challenged, and not all of them will step up to this, to become that MacGyver. I totally get why you don't get that, student. And I'm going to totally come swooping in like, a superhero and solve that right here, right now in 10 seconds or less. That's what I'm really hoping happens. But in order to do that, the tech stack, the software sophistication, the logistics behind all of that to elevate the human to human intersection has got to go way up. And that's where I'm going. So I have one last really quick round. I think we started earlier in this hour, so it's okay if we end a little bit early and release everybody back into the wild. And that is this. There's also been, and Ellen, you touched on this a bit, all three of you did. There's been a big culture shift, which is a real blessing. And that is the teacher has become a hub, right? Like you just said, Shannon, of voice to the district, to the public. They are also become, they almost become like a social worker, and that's another whole role. I think three of us could spend 8 hours redefining the entire role list of what a teacher is now. But I think they also had to come out of their little hovels of a classroom, a loneliness, a lonely kingdom. Not that that's not cool too, but and suddenly be part of a team in every direction and leading teams of parents and students and grandmothers and uncles and fellow teachers in math who are doing the same thing I'm trying to do. I mean, they were lone wolves 99% of the time. And now they're part of greater community and they have to be on teams. And this is massive culture change. And it's hidden. And we go, oh, yeah, they got together. No. This is big. Becoming a team player when you were taught in college to be an isolated in your room leader of all things, discipline of all. Wow. In 2 years, you had a complete about face of your entire behavior pattern. This is big. Erin, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going back to, I believe it was Shannon was talking about how people learn, or no, it was Ellen. Ellen said there's a book called How People Learn. It's actually an amazing book, but you're taking me back to a program I went through, the National Institute of School Leadership. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that, but I went through that program a few years ago, and it was the aha of my life. I went through a doctorate program, and that was all theory, and it was all dissertation stuff, but I never could figure out what's the link between how a person learns and learning. How do they, and you did it, eye-to-eye contact. How do people learn? And our curriculum, how we hand kids a book, and we check on them once a week and we give them feedback, and the feedback's about 3 days late or a month late or a week late. That does not help kids learn. That's not it. What it is, it's timely feedback. There's a study out of Australia that says the number one thing for student growth is feedback, timely feedback, like immediate feedback on something, so that when you do something, so if you do nothing else, and you don't do any change at all, but you give timely feedback, got back to your point, is you look them in the eye and say, hey, have you thought of that? Or what if you change that part here? And so they're already in that cycle of learning. They're already in that mode of gaining. And instead of frustrating them, instead of them backing down and go, okay, now I'm frustrated, I have to wait for the teacher, or I have to wait for this to happen before I can learn more, they stop. They go, oh, and they can get to the next level. And it doesn't matter how you take it, like horseback ride, anything you do, if you don't have timely feedback, you're not going to have the growth that we're hoping for. So it's everything.
Wow. Great comment. Great. All right, Ellen, what are your thoughts on the same thing, this big cultural community thing, team orientation?
So it's funny, as Erin was sharing about timely feedback, I had kind of thought of the same thing when previously there was mention of giving teachers time to design assessments, because I think the feedback is most valuable for the teacher. Because we're moving to a time, what's really effective is moving to that growth model, right? Where we want to help all students grow. It's not about proficiency anymore. It's about growth. And in order to do that, you constantly have to be assessing from students what they know, what they don't know. And I think I think by leveraging some of the digital content curriculum and instructional materials, the often the most valuable thing that oftentimes kind of gets set on the wayside is the analytics, right? The data that comes from the program that could help you group kids, right? I think about some programs that are now starting to group our kids for our teachers. So, and then identifying the skill that that group of kids need. It sets up well for blended learning because you could have a group of kids doing something collaboratively. You could have that group of 3 kids coming, but you didn't have to do the legwork of trying to analyze and figure out and how to go back and reteach, right? It's because it's brought to the surface almost immediately for you. So that timely feedback, I think, but there has to be a mindset shift with educators, because a lot of times when teachers think about feedback, they think about, I assigned this so I can put it in the grade book. And so I think even need to kind of move away from, it's not about grades, it's about growth. And, you know, if you can show a student and their family that, you know, this is what your student could do in terms of writing at this point in the year, and after, you know, working with them and giving them feedback and seeing what they were able to do and getting that feedback and designing instruction, this is where they're at, right? And they've grown in these areas. They're now able to, you know, write a great thesis or, you know, whatever it might be. I think that has to be a huge shift, and that one is going to be.
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy lift.
That's a union negotiations, big time.
Yeah, it's that much. That's really deep. Well, this is awesome. Well, I want to have Shannon do the sort of the last weigh in here, and maybe with a little tinge of a, you know, the complexity of community from a systems view, because you're kind of a systems leader at the state level. You know, there's a lot of complexity out here, but we got a lot of team orientation emerging. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I wish my husband wasn't blowing the leaves right in front of the mirror where I'm sitting. I hope you can't hear it.
Can't hear it.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hit on 2 points. And one is the role of the teacher, and certainly always being student-centric in our focus. And you asked about the complexity. And when you think about complexity, if we were to ask the question of people across the land, inside and outside of education, what is our intellectual infrastructure for education?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they would point to a school building now, if they would point to a teacher, if they would point to any combination of what we know are the pillars of a strong educational or learning experience. Because from what we are experiencing, both in how it's portrayed in the news and our lived experiences in our conversations with educators, this is how we develop our future generation, right? And so we have to take the complex and make it simple. And how do we do that? A lot of the literature is pointing to automation. And there are things we can automate to free the human being to be optimal in their interaction in their role, which in this case is the educator in relation to the student. The other thing I wanted to hit upon was the piece around feedback. It's of the utmost importance to the extent that we now have futurist and technology thought leaders who are developing AI-powered tutors that, for example, I just saw an article come across my desk from Walden University around a tutor that uses artificial intelligence to help students review and master course concepts. Another way we free up the teacher to assume that new role with these new learning models. So I never can be in a space without saying this one little quippy thing, but it's my challenge to everyone, a call to action that we have a mind for the future, with the future in mind, and knowing that the future isn't a fixed point, right? We have to create it. So
Excellent, excellent wrap-up comment. That was awesome. Okay, so I think, I'm going to allow anybody that's on the line still, if you want to ask a question, ask it now. Or just congratulate these awesome ladies for a fantastic hour of conversation. I mean, we could have kept going for hours, you know how I am, people. But thank you all very much for really a terrific final point. I can't wait to have this transcribed. I'm going to ask my writers to transcribe the entire thing and not only have it in writing, but also have the video version available for our national audience, because I think we touched on some real things, real issues in the market. So I'm going to do a final share here. I just want to thank our sponsors because they're all so amazingly awesome. And they were ClassLink and Safari Montage. Really impressed with both those companies. They were award winners on the tech side with us this year. And then Blackboard, Scholastic Digital, also those companies have done some awesome new work, identity automation, a lot of new work in the market, and D2L also new work in the market. So I want to thank all of them and thank all of you for being with us for this day. And a lot of you weren't maybe here all day, but this has been the best gathering ever, even though we weren't physically together. We may have to do it digitally again in 2022, but we do have our eyes on Albuquerque. Like that's where our eyeballs are saying we may go, because we were there once before and it was awesome. We got to roast marshmallows under the moonlight, and we may go there again. So stay tuned on that, everyone. Awesome award winners. This has been a great year, and hopefully you guys will follow all the award winners, and you've already downloaded all of the slides on it. But you're free to move about the country. Thank you, all your attendees. Thank you for contributing, and see you next time. Hopefully, maybe when I'm in your area physically and I get to see you. All right, take it easy. Bye, everyone, for now.